So, next in affective domain is valuing. What is valuing? Valuing is nothing but fixing the priorities. This is the willingness to accept and even through positive gestures. For example, let me take the same example. If that particular student who goes to that room to listen to NSS, he becomes a member of the NSS, he is proud of taking part in the different activities of that particular scheme, and he values it, or he gives value to it. So, that is valuing. Okay. The fourth one here in this domain is, in the affective domain, is organization. So, what is organization? Organization is creating situations in which one willingly gives priority to a particular value. Okay. For example, if the same example that I have given you, on a particular Saturday, one friend comes and tells the student that they shall go for a picnic, but on that particular day itself you see that the student understands that he has to go for the NSS activities. So, there he takes a decision. The decision is he will go for the activities of the NSS rather than taking part nor going for that picnic. So, here this is an example of organizing. And the last one is the characterization. So, what does that mean? That is the highest level in the taxonomy of the affective domain. Here one acts in accordance with the values, the student accepts the values, he gives priority to it, he incorporates the values in his life, and those values become his character, it becomes as part of his personality. Okay. So, if the particular student who joined the NSS, if he considers the values of NSS much, he thinks about citizenship, he thinks about why he has to work in NSS, he thinks about the responsibilities of Indian citizenship, okay, he wants to work in that. So, if his personality has molded much, so we can say that it has become a part of his characterization. So, that is all about the affective domain. Then we shall move on to the next domain, that is the psychomotor domain. We shall very quickly go through psychomotor domain. Psychomotor domain, let me take that slide. Yes, the psychomotor domain, they are easier to measure than affective or cognitive outcomes, because they are really observable. Okay. So, these learning outcomes, or the third category in which the learning outcomes can be grouped, are called psychomotor domain. Here we speak about the skills required using the skeletal muscles, such as performing or manipulating or constructing certain things. In the lab, the student listens to a particular procedure told by a teacher, and he understands it, and he comes and he or she comes home and he assembles that and makes something. That is an example of a psychomotor domain. Okay. Yes, it has also got different levels that we are not going to see now. Now that we have learned Bloom's taxonomy, it might be you might be in a position to write learning objectives or learning outcomes in a better fashion. You might be able to write precise, accurate, time bound, specific learning outcomes. So, learning outcomes, writing learning outcomes, or the teacher knowing about the learning outcomes are really important. And in fact, I would recommend that all students should be given a copy of these the learning outcomes or the course outcomes for the students, so that both the teacher and the students should know what they are going to learn in a course. Okay. So, writing learning outcomes is important, and knowing about how to write the learning outcomes is also important. Yes. So, what are the things that we should have in mind when we write learning objectives? First one, do not list too many objectives. or do not list too many outcomes at a time, because that will be confusing. Second one is we can avoid jargons, unnecessary jargons, and most teachers might not be able to decipher or understand the jargons. So, just try to avoid unnecessary jargons and avoid vague words that cannot be measured. I have told you, when we write learning objectives or learning outcomes, it should be measured. So, if you just say no, the students know about a particular thing, you cannot measure that. So, instead of writing words that cannot be measured or understood, write words like measurable words like describe, contrast, choose, then differentiate, summarize, etc. So that they can be measured. Okay. Yes. So yeah. So dear friends, I have told you that we have 5 or 6 stages in the curriculum development. The first one, we have seen that curriculum development should have a course rationale. The second one, we saw that curriculum development should have the learning objectives or the aims, goals or learning outcomes. Okay. With the help of Bloom's taxonomy, we have seen how to write the learning outcomes. Now, let us move on to the third stage of curriculum development, that is describing the entry and exit level of students. Okay, describing the entry and exit level of students. So, how can we know the entry and exit level? For a perfect curriculum, we should know the entry and exit level of students. How do we know the entry level of students? If it is a language book, and I think most of the language books are developed like materials for elementary students, for intermediate students, for upper intermediate students, for advanced students, etc. But even I think that is not good, because it is too broad, and the real entry level of the student will be confusing, cannot be easily found out. What I recommend is just look at what they have learned. For example, if you are developing the curriculum for second BA, just look what they have learned till then. Developing the curriculum of standard 10, just look at what the students have studied or understood till standard 9, that should be there. From there we can proceed. So, the entry level we can find out in different ways, and I think this is the best method that we can also conduct some tests and find out by collecting the writing samples, we can find out the entry level of the students. Okay. Yes. So, the first one is to find out the entry level of the students, and I think certain proficiency tests like the IELTS and TOEFL that I have described here, I can see them from the slide, that would give you the actual level of proficiency of the student. Okay, by looking at the score or by looking at the band that the student has got. For example, if a student has procured 7 in IELTS, the band is 7, that means a particular thing. He is able to do certain things, he is not able to do certain things. So, entry level of the student can be understood in many ways, and I have told you certain books would tell you about the entry levels, and by administering a proficiency test you can know the entry level of the students. If you administer some diagnostic test also, you can know the entry level of the students. Knowing the entry level, knowing what the student knows, it is very important. Otherwise, there are chances of duplication. The student might learn or relearn what he has understood or what he knows earlier, and that would be boring. Okay. Of course, from needs assessment, we will know what the student knows. We can get a clear idea of the target level at which the student is going to complete the course. So, entry level and exit level of the course is very important. That is the next thing. Now, let us move on to the fourth stage of curriculum development. We have seen the 3 stages. First one is developing the course rationale, second one is writing the aims and objectives, third one is knowing about or describing the entry level and exit level, and the fourth one of curriculum development, which I think is the most important stage, is choosing the right content. choosing the right content. Okay. Let me explain how this should be done. As I have told you in the first video itself, curriculum development should not be the task of 2 or 3 experts, the so called experts. Curriculum development should be the outcome of a team effort. Okay. So, many should be involved in it. The curriculum, of course, the policy maker should be there, the teacher should be there, the student should be there, the parent should be there, the expert should be there. Okay. So, when for example, on a course on speaking, let us say the following ideas were given by a group of curriculum developers. After brainstorming, they came to a consensus that for speaking that is going to be administered, these are the broad areas that should have in that particular course. For example, ideas or how to ask questions, okay, how to ask questions, or how to open and close conversations, how to express one's opinion, how to express likes and dislikes, how to describe a particular object, how to describe a particular person. So, these are some of the just for imagination, for your food for thought, and just giving you an example. After brainstorming, the curriculum planners or the so called curriculum developers have found out 5 or 6 or 7 topics that should be included in a speaking course that they are going to administer. So, what should be the next thing? The next thing is they should prioritize the topics. We cannot include all the topics in one particular curriculum. Okay. So, the next thing that they should do is they should ask some review questions. The first one is what they would ask, whether they have to ask the question, should we include all the things here in this curriculum itself? Has any important topic been avoided or omitted by chance? Will the areas covered, will the areas or the topics that we are going to cover describe the or will help them to achieve the learning objectives? As I have told you, see, I am going to give you an example. A particular speaking course is going to be administered to a set of students. So, what would the curriculum planners do? They would sit together. Curriculum planners means not only the 2 or 3 experts, but the whole curriculum planning team would sit together. They would think of the different topics that they can give for the speaking course. Okay. For example, some of them would come up with the idea that the speaking course should have asking questions. Some would say that no, it should have students should learn how to open and close conversation. Some would have ideas like students should know how to express opinions, likes and dislikes. Some would say students should know how to describe an object or a person. Some would say students should know how to talk over the phone, the telephone conversation, etc., etc. Okay. So, there would be a brainstorming. So, after brainstorming, many topics would come, and when you get these topics, the second thing that you have to do is, we all know that all these topics cannot be included in a particular syllabus, in a content. So, we have to carefully decide which topics to include and which topics to avoid. So, for that we have to ask some questions. Are all these topics necessary? Has any important topic been avoided or omitted? Will the areas covered enable students to achieve the learning objectives? That is very important. Whatever thing that we give should align with the learning objectives or outcomes that we have seen. Is there enough time for transacting it? Is it too ambitious? Can we achieve this? So, when writing learning objectives itself, it is time bound. Okay. Yes. So, in short, the second thing that that we should do after brainstorming, when you have the different content, the second thing that you should do is to select wisely, okay, of the different content that we are going to use for this particular program. Yes. So, the content should depend on the subject matter knowledge, learner's proficiency level, current views on second language acquisition, available literature on the topic, published materials on the topic, review of similar courses offered in some other universities, etc. So, friends, I think I am not confusing you. I was speaking about the fourth stage of curriculum development, that is choosing the right content. Okay. So, in the slide you can see, when you choose a content, it should have certain characteristic features. It should be valid, it should be interesting, it should have utility, it should have self-sufficiency, then it should be learnable and should be feasible. So, these things should be there when we choose content. And the next one is, let me make this clear with another example. See, when we choose content, we should always think of the different things that we can give through the content. For example, when you want to teach writing paragraphs, we are not teaching them paragraphs alone. Through writing paragraphs, teachers would try to teach the different functions of language, maybe the grammar and the topics and the different skills also. Okay. So, for example, with regard to let us take the example of writing paragraph. So, writing paragraphs, we would teach some grammar portions like tenses, and we would teach them certain language functions that they can deliver. For example, how to express your likes and dislikes, how to describe something, and they would also talk about the topics that they can cover, etc. So, choosing the right topic is very important, and after choosing the right topic, selecting content is very important. Now, we have the content. So, we have the course rationale, we have the learning objectives or learning outcomes. Okay. Then we saw how to select different content, what are the things that we should have in mind when we select content. Now, the next one is, we have to sequence the course content. It cannot be given at random. Okay. It should have a sequence. So, there are different ways in which you can sequence the course content. One is the first step of, or the first one in sequencing the course content is to arrange them according to the difficulty level, that is from simple to complex. Okay. This is the most common way. Simple things comes first and then the complex one. Another way of arranging the content arranging the content is according to the difficulty level. For example, if you are teaching grammar, the easier ones come first and then the difficult ones. Again, if you are dealing with the reading skills, the simple text would come first and then the more difficult text. Okay. So, that way also you can sequence the course content. So, first from simple to complex, second one according to the difficulty level. The third one, the next one or the third one is arranging them according to their needs. So, from where do we get the needs? We will get the needs from the needs analysis. That was the first thing that we did. In the first video I told you what is needs analysis and what are the different tools that we can use to get the needs. So, based on the needs you can sequence the whole content. So, the next one is arranging them according to their chronology. So, what is chronology? It is the order in which events occur in real world. The earlier example that I have given you, writing paragraphs. When I gave this particular task for my students, what I did was, first I hunted for ideas. I asked students to write down as an individual work, I asked them to write down ideas about a particular topic. They wrote some ideas and I elicited responses from different students. Then the ideas got nourished. Okay. Then they went in for the first writing, that is the pre-writing, and after pre-writing they shared their written products with their friends. Some of them read that to the whole class, and then again vetting happened. They shared their writing with the peer, with the one who is sitting next to them, and then they wrote the next draft. The next draft, the teacher also for example, I gave them certain inputs on how to write good paragraphs. What is topic sentence? How can you write detailed supporting statements for the topic sentence? How can we write the concluding sentence, etc. So then they went in for the final draft. Some of the final draft were read out in the class. So what I meant is, see, chronology means the order in which we teach. So the content can be arranged. So we are speaking about how we can sequence the course content. We have the course content with us. We have seen the different ways in which we can collect the content, and how can we arrange these content from simple to complex. We can arrange according to the chronology, according to the need of the students, okay, etc. Yes. So the last one that we are going to see is selecting a syllabus framework. Selecting a syllabus framework, that is the last one in the curriculum development stage. Last one is selecting the syllabus framework. In the first video I have told you about we shared how curriculum and syllabus are different. In syllabus we have topics that are to be dealt with in a class for a particular semester or for a year. We know that we have different types of syllabus framework. I am going to give you some examples of syllabus framework based on English language teaching. And in English language teaching we have different syllabus framework. The first one and the very old one, the one which is followed very commonly, is the grammatical syllabus. And let us just look at the grammatical syllabus. Grammatical syllabus is one that is organized around grammatical items. It is based on the assumption that language is a set of finite rules. Okay, it is rule governed, and these rules can be combined in different ways. These rules are combined in different ways, and if one knows these rules, one can become proficient in that language. So if you want to become a good language user, the first thing that you have to do is to study the rules. So this is grammatical syllabus. So cracking the code, the rules, is very important. So I am not going to the positive and negative side of the syllabus. I am just going to ask you some questions. Just think for yourself. Okay. So the question that I am going to ask deals with the pros and cons of the syllabus that we have discussed. So just pause, give it a thought, and then resume the video. The first one is, the first question that I would like to ask is, will grammatical competency bring communicative competency? Second one, which one is more important, form, use, or meaning? The third question, can learning discrete sentences rather than using them in discourses help develop communicative competency? So these are the three questions that I would like to ask with regard to grammatical syllabus. So grammatical syllabus we have seen, it is gathered around the assumption that grammatical competency brings you communicative competency. So these are the three questions that I would like to ask. If you are able to answer these three questions, then you would be able to tell about the pros and cons of this syllabus. Now let us move on to the lexical syllabus. So what is lexis? Word. Okay. Yes. So now we come to the lexical syllabus. Lexical syllabus, lexical approach in language refers to the belief that building blocks of language learning are words, or if you increase the vocabulary of a particular language, you will be able to perform well in that language. So, that is lexical syllabus. It is mainly giving importance to the vocabulary of the language. Okay. So, it gives importance to words, word combinations, vocabulary, etc. Yes. So, now my questions. So, we are not going to deal with each and everything in a very detailed manner. The questions would answer the pros and cons of the syllabus, the lexical syllabus. First one is, just by picking up the vocabulary, or if you study the vocabulary of a particular language, will you be a proficient user of the language? For example, one knows 1500 words in a particular language. Will you be able to use the language effectively? Second one, will lexical syllabus foster creativity? Will it foster creativity? Third one, does the lexical syllabus give importance to writing? Okay. So, these are the three questions that I would like to ask with regard to lexical syllabus. When you ruminate on these questions, it would give you a better insight of what lexical syllabuses are, or syllabi. Yes. Next one is, let me quickly move on to the next one, that is the functional syllabus. You can see in the slide some functional syllabus. Functional syllabus is organized around communicative functions that we use in language. Functions are the sentences why we use language for. Okay. So, we can have different functions like requesting, complaining, agreeing, liking, disliking. These are all functions. So, functional syllabus is based on the assumption that mastery of individual functions will result in the communicative ability. Okay. So, if you learn different functions of language, you will automatically become a good user of that particular language. Again, just concentrate on the questions that I would like to ask. First one, what do you think? If you become, if you study the different language functions, can you speak the language? Can you use the language in a better way? Second one, does the functional syllabus reflect a more comprehensible view of language? Third one, does functional syllabus affect the process of communication? What does it say about the process of communication? Okay, let us reframe like that. What does it tell us about the process of communication? Now, let us move on to the next syllabus framework. It is called the situational syllabus. Situational syllabus teaches the language needed to be used in a particular situation. For example, if you are going to the airport, if you are going to the railway station, if you are going to book a ticket with the ticket booking clerk. So, what are the different things that you would, the likely conversation that would have been exchanged between the two in that particular situation. So, situation syllabuses give importance to situations. Maybe I have told you different situations are taken into consideration, and those situations are taught for the students. Okay, the students learn those situations, and here when it is assumed that when they come across similar situation, they would use the language that they have learned. Again, the questions: can all the situations that a learner needs in real life can be addressed in situational syllabus? Second one, can a language used in a specific situation be transferred easily to other situations? Third one, will situational syllabus result in gaps in students' grammatical knowledge? If you learn certain situations, will you learn all the grammar that you need in real life, whether it affects the grammar of a learner? Okay. Now, let us move on to the content based syllabus. We shall look at the content based syllabus. It is also known as the topical syllabus. Content based syllabus is organized around themes, topics or units of content. Here content is given more important than grammar, function, situation, etc. In fact, the students are taught different content, different topics. Okay, it is assumed that when a student goes through these content, the content that is interesting for them, what they would do, they would naturally learn the language. You do not have to teach them, their language is caught then taught. Again my questions: how can you test the effectiveness of a content based syllabus? What type of content should be given and how can we choose that content? Will the students learn language just by reading and understanding the content? So, these are the different syllabus framework that I have dealt with, and the next one is, see, you have to arrange the content, and you have the content now and you know what to do with the content. You have the syllabus framework and then arrange the syllabus framework, and then the curriculum development phase is over. So, let me just give you a recap of what we have learned. We have seen the second phase of curriculum development. The curriculum development phase has got 6 phases. The first one was developing the course rationale. The second one is developing or formulating aims, objectives, goals or learning outcomes. The third one was describing the entry and exit levels. The fourth one was choosing the right content. The fifth one is was to sequence this content, and the last one that we dealt with was how to prepare the how to set it in a syllabus framework. I hope you have understood how to develop curriculum. I wish you all the best. Thank you.